Hello and welcome. I'm your host Prashant, founder of Premier League Museum. Premier League Museum is the only non official platform with 100% focus on Premier League stories, matches, and yes, you, the fans. And before we continue, I would say do not forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, like the Facebook page, as well as follow our Twitter handle. Alright, so back to the show and life as Premier League fan. On today's show, I am super excited to host a Premier League fan who is multi talented. He is a journalist, he is an entrepreneur, he has done some internships in law, worked at sports sites like Sportskeeda, Fox Sports, FC Goa. He has a great passion for writing, discussions, and analysis of sports. Yes, I'm only talking about one person, these are not multiple people. And recently, he has also started a YouTube channel and belongs to a place in India which is super passionate about football. My guest today, please welcome Sarthak Sharma on the show.
Hi, Prashant. Great introduction, and thank you so much for having me.
Let's start with the Tactic Talk, a new channel where you bring sports fans with daily news, updates, and analysis, all in 60 seconds. And my question for you is 60 seconds. Why 60 seconds? Like, is there a rush? Is there like you're a fan of Gone in 60 seconds? Or you think the listeners will only listen to you for 60 seconds? So why 60 seconds?
Yeah, that's a good question, Prashant. So the idea was basically to stand out. I mean, we find ourselves in the midst of a pandemic at the moment, and it's all about creative content at this point in time. So if you're starting something on social media or anywhere for that matter, you have to try and stand out. And the ways that I thought that I might be able to stand out is by trying something which I feel like nobody else has done so far. And for me personally, when I'm watching a video, I like to see the first 60 seconds of it, and sometimes if it becomes a little longer than that, it's a little bit difficult to stay connected with what the person is talking about. So that was the idea behind 60 seconds, and I thought that it's a good way to deliver the main news of the day, because you can't obviously do everything in 60 seconds, but the main news of the day, and hopefully give that to the sports fans. And I think it's working well.
Wow. You and say that my attention span is pretty short and 60 seconds is
Yeah.
how I love to get those updates. We cannot start any discussion without actually first talking about the Premier League final round tomorrow. So, what are your predictions for the top four? Who do you think will miss out?
I think it's going to be very interesting. So, I mean, we've got three teams in Chelsea, Leicester, and Manchester United who are all competing for two spots. Would have been a little bit more. I mean, it would have been a little better if Manchester City hadn't won their appeal. But I think it's made it more interesting for Premier League fans to see that, and I think it's going to be a good. I think Chelsea are playing Wolves, so and they need just 1 point. So I think Chelsea should be able to make it. So I think Chelsea will be one team. With United and Leicester playing each other, I think it'll be a very open game, good game to watch. Again, I think United should be able to do it, but I'm not completely confident because I think Leicester have got some good players who are capable of winning games. So it's going to be an interesting one. But I would say Chelsea and United as of now.
Chelsea and United, and of course, that will be a huge disappointment for the Leicester City fans because they were doing
Right.
pretty well right up till February.
Right.
Nobody could have
Absolutely.
believed that Leicester
Absolutely.
City would be the ones missing out. All right, so on the relegation front, which is
Yes.
probably less spicy than the top four, but what are your predictions for the relegation? Who do you think are the two teams?
I think, first of all, I mean, when you look at Norwich City, who've already been relegated, I think they started the season very well, and they beat City also at home. And you're really thinking that that's the team that's going to really play football, and do well. But unfortunately, they've just kind of fallen out of the picture. Aston Villa, personally, I've been very impressed with Aston Villa with what they've done coming to the Premier League. Because I think they have some good individual players. Jack Grealish being one of them, John McGinn another. So they have good individual talent, but I think as a team they've struggled a little bit to handle things defensively. So that's why they find themselves in a bit of trouble. Watford are again another team who I'm a little surprised to see them there at the bottom, but I think they've kind of built their own problems by sacking so many managers in a season. And of course, they've sacked Nigel Pearson as well. So I think that's a bit of a reason why they find themselves there. And Bournemouth as well. Eddie Howe, brilliant manager, but this season, just the team hasn't clicked in big matches. So I think At this point, I think Villa's win against Arsenal really helped them, and now they've kind of momentarily moved out of the bottom three. And I think Watford play Arsenal, so I think it's a difficult time for Watford. So I think it should be Watford and Bournemouth joining Norwich back in the Championship. But I mean, definitely something to keep an eye on. I know most Premier League fans, be looking at the top four battle, and I think all matches are going to happen at the same time as well.
Right.
But if I think a genuine Premier League fan would definitely keep an eye on those on that game between, I think, Villa and West Ham, and especially the Watford and Arsenal game. So I think it'll be interesting.
And
Right.
whoever misses out or whoever gets to go down will have some troubles going forward for the next season. All right, so this was for the predictions. Let's talk about your career, Sarthak. I mean, I was going through your career path, and you have done LLB, you have done sports law, media, publishing. What exactly were you planning to do?
It's a good question. I don't think I have figured out exactly what I plan to do, but I mean, I think it comes to me a bit from my parents as well, my family background. I mean, my mother is a journalist, and she's also involved in a lot of other activities as well, like recruitment and HR and stuff like that. So I've always kind of been somebody who's tried to do different things together, and be a bit of a multitasker.
Sure.
So yeah, so I mean, I've always been interested in sports. It's always been my main interest area. I was Once I finished schooling, I was wondering what I wanted to do, and law was one of the things that kind of stood out, and I just went for it. Didn't really think too much about what I was planning to do after schooling, but took that kind of that dive, if you could call it, and did 5 years of law. But I think midway through, I realized that while it was fun, and as you mentioned earlier, I have done a few internships in law as well, and I have worked in Supreme Court of India. I worked in a few law firms. So yeah, so I have that experience, but I just felt like my calling was more than sports, because I felt that was something that came naturally to me. And we were discussing Premier League today. That Premier League is one of the things that I have followed very closely. So it was a natural thing for me to start getting involved with sports websites, and start approaching them if they needed writers, because I've also been writing since I was a kid. I think I published my first article when I was 10 years old. So
Wow.
yeah, so I've been very interested in that. So luckily, I was lucky that I got opportunities to write in magazines and in websites and stuff, and it kind of just grew from there, and became something that has become full time now. So yeah.
That's awesome. That's amazing. So tell me something about the
Yeah.
influence that Premier League had on you.
Yeah, it's been incredible, really, and kind of surprising, because I mean, nobody in my family used to really follow football before me, so I was kind of the first to start watching it. But I think it was my cousins that come over here and to meet us and everything, and they were big Liverpool fans. So
Oh, okay.
yeah, they were huge Liverpool fans, and that was like, I mean, seeing them with their t-shirts and everything. So it was like okay, so there's football, which is a bit of football something interesting. So once I started watching it, I didn't fancy Liverpool for some reason, but I did fancy the other red team, which was Manchester United. So just happened to be a team which was doing well at the time. I think 2003 was when I saw my first football game with United, 2003 or so, and then it just gradually grew from there. And I think the Premier League was a huge influence on me, because I would stay up for matches. Of course, being in India, we generally get the telecast a little bit late at night. So those late night games, with school the next day, and mom's not allowing you to watch them, but you still sneakily head out of your room and switch on the TV, and with like zero volume, and I used to not even switch on the fan, because I was like, she shouldn't hear anything with the fan as well. So I did all those things when I was a kid, and just to watch Manchester United matches or some big game that was on, and that was great. It was something that was fantastic. You mentioned the Old Trafford thing that happened much later on. That was, I think, 2009, but I was still a kid at that time. So yeah, Premier League huge influence since I was a child.
Well, those were the good days when Premier League was defined by Manchester United. And how much does it disappoint you now as a Manchester United fan?
Yeah, I mean, it's been difficult, I have to say. I mean, I remember when Sir Alex Ferguson had his final speech at Old Trafford, 2013, after the Swansea game, and I just remember watching that on TV and crying because it was like it was something that you never thought would happen, because you were when you're growing up and you've seen this man, and you think he's never aging, because he every year he's back, and 26 years at Manchester United is a huge achievement. And there was always, and though you were hoping that it wouldn't happen, there was kind of this fear that once he leaves, things will fall apart a little bit. And of course, nobody needs to say anything. We know it has fallen apart for the last 7 years or so. But it's good to see now that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer has come in. He's brought some of that identity back to United, and they're gradually, slowly getting back to where they should be. And hopefully we'll be back on top soon.
So I want to go back to your years as an intern, right? You mentioned that you did a lot of freelance writing as well as
Yeah.
internships. And what would you advise the Premier League fans who are aspiring to be writers, journalists, and they get a lot of opportunities as interns as well as freelance writers? What kind of
Yeah.
lessons and lessons you learned as well as experiences that you would like to share of those internship and freelance writing years?
Right. So I would just suggest that start early. It's always helpful to start early, because when I was a kid, and I was a huge fan of football, but there was no means to start, kind of get involved with it, because at that time there was no social media, and there was like, it wasn't as big as it is today, and websites were not as big as they are today. So there were very few avenues to kind of approach and start getting involved with it if you wanted to pursue sports. Now, however, when you look at it, there are multiple avenues, and earlier, it was like either you become a doctor or you become an engineer in India, or you become a lawyer.
That's true.
So yeah, so there were very few avenues, and to creatively find yourself and find your path is not an easy thing to do. So I think now, with everything really open and so accessible, everything is out there, so accessible. It's very easy to start early, but you have to take a few steps into that direction. Like for me, I started off really writing digitally only around say 2014 or
Sure.
so. Before, but it wasn't like I couldn't write before that. I just didn't have the right avenues, and I didn't have the right knowledge. So there are multiple websites now, where you can start. You can even start your own blog. So, I mean, I would just suggest that if there are some young people who are watching, teenagers, and who are involved in sports, and really are big fans of Premier League and just, football in general, or any other sport for that matter, just make your own blog and be creative with it. And you never know what can happen. Like, you share your blog all over social media. You never know. You might just get opportunities to do so many different things. So
That's
that would be the way to go.
that's very well said. So yep. And
Absolutely.
Sarthak, let's talk. So Sarthak, let's talk about your journey to Fox Sports Asia. So you were an intern, you were freelance writer, and then you moved to Fox Sports Asia, a very reputed
Yeah.
company which is a global name. Fox is a global name. What difference
Yeah.
did you see, and was there any interaction you had on Premier League as well over there?
Yeah, I mean, Fox came to me again because of the fact that I was involved heavily with multiple websites, and I was working with a few people who then got involved with Fox. So it was just an opportunity which came, and I was in college at that time. Actually, I was in fifth year of my law school. So when Fox came, so I was very hesitant to take the opportunity, because I was doing a college day from what 8:30, 8 o'clock in the morning to like 3:30 or 4. And they were kind enough to tell me that they really just wanted my work. So they said that if you were willing to come in after you're done with your college and then work for us. So I was essentially working a day of 8 to 4 in college, and then come back and then work 4 to 12 or whatever at night.
Wow.
So with Fox, so I was doing, and I was working from home, of course, because it was not possible for me to move. But yeah, I mean, Fox had set up in Singapore, but we were all working remotely from India. So yeah, it was a great opportunity. I mean, and what I found different was it was of course more professional than what I'd seen earlier, and just there was a big scrutiny about things that you would do. Like you had a free hand in terms of the content you wanted to pick, but it was non-stop. It was rapid. Like there was no moment to really sit and think about what you're doing. It was like you're one of those reporters um, who is constantly finding news and then posting it and then immediately moving on to the next story. So that's how it was. And I was lucky to get a lot of exposure in terms of different sports that I was interested in. So football was of course one of them, and Premier League was a big part of it. But also with Formula One and MotoGP and all these other things that I was handling. So it was definitely interesting. We also got to cover the World Cup, which happened in 2019. So it was a great experience and certainly one that taught me a lot.
That's awesome. So let's move on now to the Tactic Talk, your most
Yeah.
recent venture, Tactic Talk, and 60 seconds. So let's talk about how the idea came up. How did the idea of Tactic Talk come up?
So basically, that was something that I was just discussing with a friend. I think back in November or December last year. So it was just something that came to mind, which this is we live in the day and age where everybody's got an alter ego. I like to say. It's an alter ego in the sense that you have your own profile on Instagram, and then you have something else that you started on just to I guess explore and a little bit better and find out things on social media which you normally wouldn't. So I think it's a great way to creatively express yourself, and it's also a good way to stand out because nowadays, I mean, if you work for a particular organization or a company, that is something that you are doing for them. But what are you doing for yourself? Are you trying to do something for yourself as well? And you need to have, I think, maybe two or three avenues to separate avenues to kind of stand out. So that was something that I was thinking about. But of course, being with Person Fox and then finding a new job, I got a new job soon after. So it was very difficult to find the time to do it at that point. But it was definitely in my mind. It's something that I wanted to do, and the idea wasn't 60 seconds initially. It was just something that I wanted to explore from a broadcast perspective, because before that, everything that I was doing was on a writing front. So I wanted to kind of explore and hone my speaking and broadcasting skills a little bit. So that's why I came up with the concept, and now it just started. It's just been a month, so hopefully it will keep on progressing.
Thing.
Right.
So
Thank you.
let's talk about the Premier League and the current season. I know that it's ending tomorrow. What do you think
Yeah.
were your favorite moments from the current season?
Quite a few. It's been an interesting season. I mean, I don't think we'll ever have a season like this which ends in July or August. Yeah, July. I mean, so I don't think we'll ever have a season like this. It'll stand out in history. But just in terms of pure footballing moments, I think it's been a very interesting season. I think Liverpool stands out as the team that has really dominated and done well. And I personally thought that they would go all the way unbeaten because of the way that they were playing, and of course not quite invincibles yet, but they did a great job, and I think Liverpool were definitely the standout team. In terms of goals, I think we've seen some sensational goals, and as fans we love watching the ball hit the back of the net. So I think we've seen quite a few of those screamers that will stand out as well. And and all across, I mean, the Champions League places, the fight is going down to the last day of the season. We still don't know who's going to make it, who's not. And Europa League as well. The fact that we've seen so many top managers in the Premier League who've all come in. We've got managers like Klopp, Guardiola, Mourinho. Lampard's come in, Solskjaer's come in. So I mean, such great managers, and Arteta, of course, at Arsenal as well. So this new trend that we've seen this season with the teams who are former players and now have come and managed their teams and have done well, and the relegation fight as well. I mean, it's been a very interesting season, I would say, and one that will definitely stand out in history.
I 100% agree with you, and I think this is probably just one of those seasons where Mourinho did not have an impact or a say in the top four race.
Yeah.
So finally, I just want to ask, and I think all Manchester United fans would love to get an answer from an expert like you. Do you think Pogba will stay next season?
That age-old question, isn't it? But yeah, I think he will. I think he's the kind of player who likes to be, told that he's the best. I mean, we all know that he is the best. In terms of pure footballing quality, he's very good. I wouldn't say the best, but he is very good. It's just that sometimes off-field stuff and social media and whatnot can become a little bit much. And I think it's really helped Pogba that Bruno Fernandes has come into the team, and there are different players to take that pressure off of Pogba because he thrives when he's in an environment where he's a bit protected and he can play his game. So and now he started to get that. I think before Fernandes came, it was always about midfield is about Pogba and.
True.
Can he do everything? He's got to be the one to attack, he's got to be the one to defend, he's got to be the one to create. So everything is about Pogba, and the scrutiny also on him is of course unbelievable. I think the media has really troubled him a lot in that way, and I think it's very wrong because he's a player who wasn't allowed to flourish. But definitely I think he will stay because I don't think he ever had a problem with being at Manchester United. I think it was just more of a thing where he didn't feel respected at times, and I think now that he's respected, he's been allowed to find his place in the team in a more relaxed way. I think he'll express himself even better next season.
I tend to agree with you on that, and I think gone are the days when probably Real Madrid or Zinedine Zidane would be interested in getting him to Real Madrid.
Yeah. And also, I think it's also the fact that even if they do want him, the pandemic has changed everything financially, and United are not going to settle for, less money for someone like Pogba because he's pretty much the talisman of the club. So I think that also makes a big difference. People, clubs may not want to spend that much money, and United would, I think, be able to keep him as a result.
Well, good luck for that to you as a Manchester United fan as well as to the club overall, Manchester United. Thank you so much, Sarthak, for your time. It was a great pleasure to talking to you, and we hope the best for your journey ahead, especially your new channel, Tactic Talk. And fans, thank you so much for joining us. Please tell us how did you like this podcast. And if you want to connect with us, please like our Facebook page, Premier League Museum, or follow us on our Twitter handle, PL Museum, as well as subscribe to our YouTube channel, Premier League Museum. Thank you and have a good one.